Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. So this is video on ReactJS CRUD example for consuming the GraphQL endpoint using Apollo GraphQL React library. Okay, and in this video I am going to use the fake JSON GraphQL server will set up in my local machine so that I can easily implement the CRUD application. Okay, let's create React application and command to create the React template application, that is npx space, and the command is create react app space name of your project. Okay, let's run and create the project. So this is our React project. So let's install React Bootstrap UI library into our application. Go to React Bootstrap website, click on get started. Okay, here is the command for installing the React Bootstrap. Copy this, open the terminal, paste our command and run it. After installing Bootstrap, go to index.js file. Okay, here let me remove few unwanted code. Okay, can remove web vitals and also remove the static mode. Okay, and now here let me import the Bootstrap CSS file reference. Okay, and now I want to create a layout component, which is a master component that contains menu. Okay, so in the src, let me create a folder like components. Okay, inside of it, a shared folder. So inside of the shared folder, let me create a component like layout component. Okay, okay, in this layout component, I want to add the uh, React Bootstrap navbar. So go to navbar. So go to React Bootstrap and here click on components. Go to navbar. Okay, let me pick one of the example. Okay, I'm taking this example primary color and I add it here. I want navbar to take entire space, so let me remove this container inside of it. Okay, I can remove nav links as well. I will name like my example like a toys. Okay, toy store. Okay, and this navbar will be a shared component. And here let me create container. Okay, so to this container I want to render all my pages component. So let me destructure here props like children. Okay, and I want to render the children, that means page level components. So here we have to import the navbar namespace, so I can get from navbar here. Okay, so this is my layout component. So it should be rendered in app component because app component is our entry file. So go to app component, remove everything. Okay, add a layout component. Okay, so let's run and check our sample. So open one more terminal and our application can be start with the command npm start. Okay, and we can see our menu coming. So to this demo, I need a GraphQL endpoint, right? So for this demo, I am going to use a fake JSON server, which we can set up very easily in our local machine so that we no need to concentrate on what is GraphQL and how server will work. Okay. So for that, search like JSON graph server GraphQL. Okay, click on this npm link. The first thing we have to do is copy this command. Okay, npm hyphen JSON hyphen GraphQL hyphen server. So open the command prompt. Okay, anywhere and install it globally. Okay, so after installing, here you can find some documentation how to set up the server. Okay, so first thing is we have to create a db.json somewhere. Okay, so for this demo, what I will do, I will directly create the db.json file here itself. Okay, so outside of the src, I'm going to add my db.json file. So this db.json, sorry, JS file, not JSON file. So JS file is my storage, temporary local storage for my API data. Okay, so create it, and here we have to add like this module.export. Okay, and open bracket. In this object, I need to configure my response data. If you see here example, see some post data array, some user information and comments like this. We have to add a parent property and that should be array to get the collection. Okay, so in my case, I want to add like toys. Okay, and open array, and let me add here some dummy data I have already prepared. Okay. Okay, this is my dummy data where I will have properties like ID, name, price, and image URL. Okay, so whenever our JSON server up and running, whatever the data we have created, right? So based on this type, automatically uh, JSON GraphQL schema will generate and it will return the response by taking this JSON data. Okay, sorry, temporary object data. So first we have to create the db.json and we have to add our dummy data, whichever we want to re receive as a API response. Okay. And the next thing is we have to set up the command to run the JSON server. Okay. So this is the command to run the JSON server. So, but by default, it runs under 3000 port number. But our React also runs under 3000 port number. So here is the conflict because no two applications cannot run under same port in a local machine. So what we can do, we can specify the port number explicitly. So copy this. So what I will do for my demo, go to package.json and here I will name a command like JSON GQL server, and its actual command is like this hyphen hyphen p. I have to specify the port number. I want to run it under 4000. Okay. So now if I run, automatically server will starts. Okay. JSON GraphQL server. So what we can do means open one more terminal. Okay. So npm run and give the script name. Okay. What is our script name? JSON GQL server, right? So run it. And here you can see GraphQL server is running with your data. So our endpoint is up and running. So if I try to add this local host, if you try to access the local host 4000, you can see a tool like this. So this tool is called GraphQL Playground. Why it is useful means it is very easy to write the GraphQL queries. Okay. So basically GraphQL will contain single endpoint, unlike our web API. Okay, so with that single endpoint only we can read data and we can update data. But there are two operations it will take. Okay, one is query. Query means reading the data. Another thing is mutation. Mutation means updating the data. Okay, so our GraphQL server is running, right? So it is running means schema is already generated based on our dummy data. In db.json we have given, right? So here, if you click on docs, it will give intelligence. See, I have specified like query and mutation, right? Query for fetching and mutation for updating or saving the record. So if you click on mutation, see, it will by default show some existing method. So this is the existing method at the server. So if I use this method, I can read the data like that. Okay. And if you go for mutation, see, it will also show what are the different methods it will support. Say remove, update, create many, and create. Okay. So what are all these methods? How we can create the commands for GraphQL? We will understand next. Okay. So to consume the GraphQL into React.js application, we have to use a library so that supports the GraphQL syntax and invocation of the API call. Okay, so that library is Apollo GraphQL client library. Okay, so such something like Apollo GraphQL React and go to this domain apolloggraphql.com. Okay, and here go to get started, and in the get started you can see the command for installing the GraphQL library. Okay, copy this command, open our terminal, install the Apollo client GraphQL library. So library installed successfully. Let's do some initial configurations. So to do initial configurations that are related to our GraphQL library, go to the index.js. Okay, first thing, constant client, and I have to initialize the Apollo client instance. Okay, new Apollo client instance. Okay, that loads from the Apollo GraphQL. Here I have to add some configurations. For that, let's pass the object. Okay, and you will have options like URI. So to this URI property, we have to assign our GraphQL endpoint URL. We know our GraphQL endpoint URL, right? So 44,000 on localhost 4,000. My GraphQL endpoint is loading. Okay, remove the question mark. Okay, and this is my endpoint. And next, one more configuration like cache option. So we can use in-memory cache option. Okay, new in-memory cache that also loads from the Apollo GraphQL client library. Okay, now I have to use Apollo provider component, which is a GraphQL client React component. Okay, I should use it as a parent so that my client instance can be injected into my entire application so that I can easily consume the GraphQL endpoints. Okay, so I can add a element like Apollo provider. Okay, so that is the component I want to add and wrap it around our app component. Okay, so now to this Apollo provider, there is a input property like client. Okay, to that client, we have to pass our client instance we have created just now. Sorry. Okay, that's it. These are the required initial configuration to integrate our Apollo GraphQL library. And next, we are going to focus on read operation, means consuming the GraphQL endpoint. And once we receive the response, and we have to bind the response to our UI. Okay. Now our main focus is to implement the read operation. The CRUD create, read, update, delete operation. We are focused on read operation. Okay. So let's add a new page level component. Okay. So first let me create the folder for pages component. Okay. In that, let me add a new component like all toys.js. So this is my all toys component. Now I have to configure a route for this component. So let's install React router DOM, okay, to configure the routing into our application. Next, I can add the route for my component. Okay. So in npm packages, such like React router DOM. Okay, copy this command and inside of the terminal, let's install our router library. Okay. After installing the React router library, go to index.json. My app component should be wrapped around browser router. Okay. So that loads from the React router DOM. You can see the reference. Okay. So app component is our entry component, right? So go to app component. Inside of the layouts, let me add routes. Okay. That loads from the React router. Okay. Library. So inside of route, you can define individual route. Okay. And path, I will, it is my home component, right? I will simply use slash and element. To this element, I have to define the component I want to load. So I can define my all toys component. Okay. So that's it. That is my routing. Okay. Now let's add some dummy HTML here and check whether we are able to see our all toys component is loading or not. Okay. For that, hi. Okay. Okay. Here you can see my hi all toys text message is coming. So my page component is loading. Okay. Now our focus is to implement the read operation, right? So let's first play with the our playground. So this is the playground, right? GraphQL playground. Once we run our JSON server application, if you go to this URL, this playground will come. So here we can define our GraphQL definition based queries and mutation. Okay. Since I want to read the data, right? That means query. So now I have to frame a query to fetch the all the data from the GraphQL endpoint. So it is easy to do. How we have to do means by default here you can see the docs. So here you can see query and mutation. So if I click on query, since I am doing query, right, to fetch all the data, here it will display all the schema at the server. So by default, it is automatically generated, okay, by based on our db.json, we have added sample data, right? So based on this data, okay, the GraphQL JSON server automatically generated the schema. Okay, so this is the schema we have to use for fetching any kind of data. So first we are trying to fetch data. That means we have to explain. I am requesting for a query. For that, I have to define first query. See, this is GraphQL syntax, which looks like JavaScript object, but it is not a JavaScript object. First thing is that, okay, this syntax is, we have to follow these rules, okay. So by keep on doing this, we get familiar, okay. So don't panic by seeing this different kind of syntax, okay. So query, this keyword represents, I am telling GraphQL server, this is my query, okay. Means I want to read some data from you. Next, I want to fetch the data from all. If you see here, there are few syntaxes here. Okay. So if you see toy, all toys, and all meta toys. So if you look, these are like some abstract methods, right? Some kind of methods at the server. Okay. So these methods are nothing but in GraphQL terminology resolvers. Okay. So I will use first this second one. So what this second one means, this is use all toys means all the data at the server. So now what we have to do means, since I want to re-invoke this method, right? I have to use this method name here. See, one of the best benefit using this GraphQL playground is intelligence automatically appears. If you hit control space, see, it will show all the methods that are available at the server. Okay. Since I want to use all toys, right? Select it. Okay. And but here there are filtering input properties. Okay. All these are optional. Okay. How I can say optional means if they are not optional, you can see a exclamatory like this. That means those are mandatory fields. And if you observe, no one parameter has that exclamatory before that, after that type. That means all are optional fields. So I no need to uh, add any filters. So I can directly open the flower braces. Okay. Next. So mm, inside of these flower braces, I have to specify uh, what are the properties I want to get from the response. Okay. So if you observe here, these are the properties, right? So you can request server required properties. No need to fetch all the properties. Okay. So if you observe here, I want only ID. Okay. Enter ID. See those properties also it will show intelligence. And now let me click on this run button. See, I got data. And here inside of data, one property is there. This is auto-generated property name based on our method name. Whatever we pass here, request name, that will come as a property name. Please remember it. And here you can see array of objects. Inside of array of objects, I am getting the ID values. So that is the beauty of the GraphQL. We can request only required property. And since this method return type is array of toys, so in that array of toys object, these are the fields. So whatever fields we requested, those fields only we will get. Okay. So I will request all the fields. No commas, nothing needed. Okay. Automatically intelligence is showing. If I run now, I'm able to see all the data will come here. Okay. See, since I am requesting all the properties here, right, inside of the method name, so all the data is coming. So this is the GraphQL query command to fetch my all the data. Okay. So I hope I have explained how we can frame the query for reading. Okay. So now I will use this query in my application for fetching. Okay. Let's create another folder to store this GraphQL query commands as well as mutation commands. Okay. So I will create a folder like GraphQL. Okay. And inside of it, I will create a JS like toy query JS. Okay. Here am going to write all the query comments of my GraphQL. Okay. So export constant, and this is for fetching all data, right? So I will name it like, you can give any name. Okay. Get all toys. Okay. Equal to, it should be written like a string, but it should be wrapped around GQL tag. Okay. That loads from the Apollo client. And next after GQL, open backticks. Don't add normal quotations. These are backticks. Okay. And copy this entire query and add here. Okay. Now I can use this variable as my query. Okay. So now what I will do, go to my all toys. So here, let me create a use state variable to store my API response data. Okay. So initially empty array. Okay. I will name it like all toys data and set all toys data. Okay. So this array must be looped and binded here, right? So let me add React Bootstrap cards. So let's go to React Bootstrap website. Okay, click on components and go to card section. And at the bottom, I have my desired style. Okay, so copy this row and add it here. And then import the namespaces. Okay, and add it here. So here normal array, some static array, remove this, and I can use all toys data. Okay, so this all toys data, I am expecting this response. Okay, so here we'll call toy and add a key toy.id. Okay, and image toy.image URL. You can copy the property names from here as well or from our db.json file. Okay, and since I am familiar, I am writing directly and toy.name. Okay, and here price toy.price. Until now, it is a normal React.js implementation. Okay, now I have to invoke this endpoint, right? So I can use, since I have already injected the Apollo client service, I can use some default methods in that one thing like use query. So this use query takes our query command. Just we have defined one query command, right? Get all types. It takes that as a input. Okay. Sorry. Get all toys. Okay. And here I can configure additional options here. If you want, you can ignore. But I want to configure one thing here, that is fetch policy. Okay, I want to specify no cache because by default GraphQL will use this in-memory caches because we have defined right in-memory cache. So it will use this in-memory cache. But initially I want to show without cache how it works. Okay, so because of this cache, it will work like a, in general this cache work like a state while using the graph library. Okay, no need to add one more additional uh, state management. In-memory cache will be more than enough while using the GraphQL library. Okay. So for now, fetch policy no cache means it is always invokes the endpoint. It won't store the data into the cache. Okay. And from this use query, we can read lot of options here. So constant object of options. Okay. So what kind of options we can read means data, loading, lot of things. Okay, and error like this, all the things we can read. Loading means it is true means our API call is still in progress. Data means you will get response, right? If you see whenever I hit, this is the data, right? So this is the root property data we are reading here. Default root property for GraphQL endpoint is data. So that property here we are reading. And here error means if any error occurs, we can read. So for now, for my demo, I will simply use the data property only. Okay. So now what we will get, data dot all toys we will get, right? So that data I want to set into all toys data. For that I will use effect. Okay. Arrow function. And here I will wait for my data property change. Okay. Data property means this property change. So here what I will do, I will check for whether I got all toys property or not. Okay. So this property is nothing but here our query property. So to not to confuse, I will copy the property name from here. Okay. So it will be a array. Right here you can see it is a array of objects. Okay. If that is exist, then I am set my all toys data. Okay. So data dot all toys. Okay. That's it. That is my read operation. If everything is good, then we can observe GraphQL endpoint invocation and data binding. Okay, let's test it. So if I go to my React application, see automatically here data is coming, right? So let me little design it. Okay, first thing, let me add it inside of the container. Okay, design changes only. So let me add some padding, so margin top. Let me give some margin and I will expect 3 columns. Okay, and for this image, let me add some styles. Okay, object, object, height. Okay, some 400 pixels and wait, let it take 100%. Okay, let's check the output now. I'm expecting some better results. Okay, somewhat better. Okay, so here you can see image and prices all are binded. And if I go to network call, okay, and go to network call and click on XHR, now reload again. So here you can see my local host 4000, which is my GraphQL endpoint. And here see payload. See, there is a query property. And see this property. See how it is populated. This query property is nothing but the command here we have created, and this command we pass it to our use query. Where is use query? Use query. So that is sending to the server as a payload. Okay. And if you see the data, see the response. Root property is data and all toys. All toys is nothing but this all toys. Actually, this all toys is a method name at the server. Okay. And I'm getting the response from my API. So that means we are successfully done with the read operation. Okay. Now our main focus is on create operation. Previously we did read operation, right? Now create operation. So for that, let's create a one more page component like add toys. Okay. Okay. Now let's configure route for our add toy. For that, go to our app component. Here, let's add new route tag. Okay, and define the path. And here for the path, I will name it like add toy. Okay, and in the element, I can pass my component. So add toy. Okay, so create operation means mutation. Okay, if I go to my GraphQL playground and if I get back to my schema, here you can see query and mutation, right? So for creating or changing any data at the GraphQL endpoint, that is called mutation. So if you click on mutation, these are the methods available at our GraphQL server. So create toy. So this method is for creating single toy. Create many toys. So it will create or insets multiple new toys. Okay. Update toy for updating single item. Remove toy. So updating single toy. So these are the four methods the schema is showing for us. So now to generate the mutation, first, just like query, we have to tell server, this is my mutation. Okay. And now I have to call for single record. I have to use this method, right? Okay. So this is a single method. It takes the input parameters like name, price, image URLs. All these are mandatory fields. You can see the exclamatory at the end of the type. So string, capital string, int, int string, all these are GraphQL types. Okay. And it is finally written toy, that is newly generated created toy. Okay. So we know we have to use our method name. See, create toy by intelligence itself, it helps us. Okay. And here input fields are mandatory, right? So open circular braces and then flower braces. So here use exact names, okay? What whatever there, intelligence also comes by default, okay? Colon. And for this name, I have to define the GraphQL variable. So to define the GraphQL variable, the name should be prefixed with the dollar. You can give any name, okay? XYZ, like that, any name. So this is the variable name for this property, okay? So, but it is a good convention to use same name as a variable name as well, okay? Comma, price. So dollar price, that is the variable name. Similarly, image URL, okay? Please use the benefit of the intelligence, okay? So that you won't confuse. And I will use same URL, okay? Since I have defined the variables, right? So I have to explicitly specify the variable type through this variable name. So for that, after mutation, open the circular braces, and here I have dollar name, right? And what is the name type string, right? As it is same GraphQL type. This is GraphQL type. That type I have to define here. Okay, string, and it is non-nullable. Okay. Same way, price variable dollar price. Okay, and here it is integer and it is not nullable. Okay, capital I and T and exclamatory. Same way, my another variable. Okay, that is image URL, right? So what it is also type string, capital S, sorry. Okay, and here it is returning the toy. So I want to get all the data, ID, name, all the data. So I will define ID. So these are the properties I am expecting in the response. Okay, price, image URL, all the properties. Okay, so if you want to directly create from the GraphQL, so these are the placeholders, right? Variables. So for them to pass the value, actual value, here you can see a small query variables tab. Click on it. See, window opens. If I open a bracket, flower braces, and if I enter control space, it will automatically shows the variable names. Okay. See, so it is a JavaScript object only, simple JavaScript object. Price. So price. Let's image URL. Okay, if I run, this data will be saved at the server. Okay, so I am showing just how to save. Okay, now let me create a, just like toy query.js, let me create a one more file like toy mutation.js. Okay, so here export constant and create underscore new toy. Okay, and we have to use GQL that loads from Apollo GraphQL, and open backticks and copy these entire mutation command and paste it over here. And these variables we programmatically pass them. Okay, so okay, this is my query. And first let's define the form and everything. Next we will work on uh, how to use the mutation. Okay, let me add a bootstrap container. Okay, and class Margin top 2. Inside of it, let me add a row, bootstrap row, and a column. Okay, and let me use some styling. Okay, I column 8 cells and offset MD2. Okay, let's add a form name using the legend. Okay, add a new toy form. Okay, and here let me add some bootstrap form controls. So let's go to bootstrap website, and here one small correction. It is route. Okay, is route. Now in the bootstrap website, go to forms, and here in the first example, let me copy this form group. Okay, so in the add toy, let's remove the form text. Okay, so label will be, type will be text, remove the placeholder. Okay, remove basic email. Okay, let me duplicate this two more times. Okay, one for name, one for image URL, one for price. Okay, so I will name it like name. So label will be name. Okay, it will be price. Okay, price. Okay, next it will be image URL. Okay, image URL. Okay, so these are my form fields. So for now, I will use useref for form fields, but the best option is you can use a React hook form. Okay, or simply for now I am using useref variables. Okay, so I will use constant name. So this useref for name field and const price ref. Okay, const image URL useref. Okay, so these are my form fields. So let bind it by using ref property name. Okay, add it on the form dot control. Okay, ref price. Okay, ref image URL. Okay, this is my form setup. Now here what I will do, just like if you go to all toys, what we used, use query, right? Same way I can use mutate. Okay, use mutate. So here I have to pass my uh, mutation command, that is create new toy. Okay, here for creation it won't take any cache. Okay, so here I can read a variable like constant. Previously, in all toys, it is simple object and it will read data, right? But here, I have to take a array. Okay. In that array, I have to define a name like add toy. So it will be a method. Okay. Name is custom, but it will use mutate will pass a method reference to it. Okay, and if you want loading data, all those things, open a object inside of it as second parameter, and you can see here intelligence is coming, data loading, all these things are coming. So for now I don't need anything, I simply need a first parameter, that will be a method. Okay, add to do will get a method reference from the mutation. Okay, here use query directly invokes API, right? All toys, but here it won't invoke API call immediately. So I can use this add toy method inside of my click handler. So for that, let me add a button here. Okay, so button which is of type button I want, and variant primary color only. Okay, so it for add, and I will register a click for it. Okay, so I have to create a click handler. So let me create a click handler like constant add toy handler. So this is my click handler. Okay, I can pass here. Okay, so now I can invoke this method. Okay, add toy, and it will take options. In that options, variables. We have to pass variables, right, for mutation. If you recall here in the playground variables. So here I can specify variable. Okay, and this object must be equal to this object. I simply copy this object. Okay, and assign it here. I can remove double quotes for the properties, or I can leave. I'm removing. Okay, now I have to assign the my form data to this variable. So name name is my user variable. Okay, dot current dot value, that gives the input value. Okay, and similarly price. So by default, those user gives string value. So I am converting into number. Okay, price dot current dot value. Okay, and here also my image URL useref variable. Okay, dot current dot value. Okay, now I am successfully assigning the form data to my GraphQL variable object. So now this will invokes the mutation endpoint, GraphQL endpoint. Okay, now after completion of the call, I can subscribe to it. I can listen for the promise. Okay, and I can do any logic after completion of the call. So I want to navigate back to my home page. So for that, what I will do, I will create a variable like navigate that users use navigate. Okay, so use navigate loads from the router React router DOM. Okay, so I can use that variable here for navigate back to my home page once the item is created successfully. So home page, simply specify the slash. Okay, this is my logic. So what we are doing, this is the actual GraphQL mutation logic. So here we will use mutation. Inside of use mutation, we will pass our mutation command. So nothing but our this command, right? And here we are getting all toys as a method. This is any name you can give some XYZ. Then that will be the method. Okay. So I have named it like all toys. So in the click event, I'm invoking all toys method by passing the GraphQL variable object with the form data and then navigating back to home page. Okay. So to navigate from my all toys, so I'm missing some form reference, right? So let me add React Bootstrap form. Okay. Copy that, paste it here. Okay. So yes, now it is good. To move from our home page to add toy, I need to have a button here at the top. So on clicking the button, I will navigate to my add form. Okay, for that, let's go to all toys. Okay, here let me create a one more row. Okay, and a call and some styling here. Class name equal to md4 offset md4. Okay. And here I want to add a button. So let me add the bootstrap, React bootstrap button. Okay. Variant will be primary. Type will be button. Okay. Add button. So on clicking it, I have to navigate to uh, add form, right? So here I will add a variable like navigate variable that we have use navigate. Okay. So I will simply use a on click with arrow function. Okay. And I will use navigate variable. Okay. Here I can specify my route. So what is my route? So here it should be prefixed with slash. So copy this. All toys, add it here. Okay. So that's it. Save everything and check in our website. See, I am able to see the add button. Now, if I click on add button, see, I am on add form. So let me create a new toy. Okay. So for that, open network calls, remove everything. Okay, I will add train my new and some $100 and let me add uh, some random Google image. Okay, now let's click on add button so that our record must be saved at the GraphQL endpoint. So click on add. See, here you can see the new item on going to my home page. That means it is added at the server successfully. If I go to network call, the first call is my save call. Okay, so here if you go to payload, see now in the query variable you can see the my mutation command, right? So this is nothing but our mutation command in here toy mutation.js, and here now you can see variable to this variable object our form posted data is passed. Okay, and in the second request, that is nothing but normal query request, we are getting all our server saved data with id 3. So if I refresh also I can see the record. That means I have successfully added a new record to my GraphQL endpoint. So this is how we can implement the GraphQL mutation into our React application. Okay. So next we are focused on update operation. So now our main focus is on updating the item. Okay. So for updating the item, let's create a page level component. Okay. So close everything in the pages folder. Let me create a new component like edit toy.js. Okay, this is our edit toy component. And now let's configure routing in the app component. So here add one more route, okay, and path, and I will add a route like edit hyphen toy. But for edit, we will have a dynamic placeholder in the URL, that is ID value. Why? Because I want to display the edit form with my item to edit, right? So we have a way item ID, right, to get the data. So I am going to use the ID value in the URL. So to create a dynamic route, you can specify a placeholder like colon ID. ID is our placeholder for dynamic URL. Okay. And in the element tag, I can pass my edit component. Okay, that's all about routing. Okay, so to populate route data, we have to fetch, right? That means get operation. Means query command I have to write. So here I want to prepare a query and I have to filter and get one of the item from the server. Okay, if I go to queries, here there are three methods, right? In the three methods, first method will fulfill our requirement. If you see, ID is the input parameter and ID is the mandatory, so it will return single toy. So this is the ideal method for creating my query command. So what I will do, I will remove this old mutation. So since I am expecting query, right? So we have to add query keyword. Then our method is toy. So enter control space. Here you can get the intelligence and toy. And here we have to pass our ID value. So input value. So open circular braces. And here you can see ID, which is the server ID. But we have to add a variable. Okay, how to add variable? Dollar. And you can specify any name. But my convention, GraphQL variable matches with the normal ID variable. Okay, so I will use same name ID. Okay, so I have to define type of my variable, right? So open circular braces after query and dollar ID, and what its type, it is a ID, which is a JSON type of the GraphQL ID. Okay, just like a object. So add same ID, and it is non-nullable. That means I have to add the exclamatory here as well. Okay, and then after open the flower braces, and here we have to write what are the parameters we are expecting from the uh, server. Since I want to edit the record, right, that means I want to get all the information. So let's add all the properties. Okay, and now we have only one variable, right? So remove all these things, and we have only one variable, that is ID. For example, let me give like ID 2. Okay, now if I run, I must get my item. Okay, see, I got toy data, which is a single item of which ID is 2. Means I have filtered my data. Okay, so we have to use this now for populate our update form, right? So let me copy this query. Okay, and go to my toy query.js. Here, let's add one more constant. Okay, export constant get toy by ID. Okay, so we know GQL tag and backticks. Inside of backticks, add our query. Okay, now let's go to our edit toy. So now what I will do, I will just copy some of the code from the my add component. Okay, because edit component and add component have lot of common code. Okay, so the first thing is, let's copy these things up to container. Okay, and go to edit toy. Okay, so here what I can change means, let's change the form heading update a toy and form button name update, and for now remove this handler and let's just add a dummy arrow function. Okay, and image URL ref, image under reference price, reference name I need to have, right? So let's go to add toy. Okay, add the namespace for useref here in edit component. Okay, and copy the variables. These are the variables I required. So copy them and add in the component. Okay, so form fields. Okay, and useref variables are declared. And let's import container, row, column, and form group namespaces. For that, go to add toy. Okay, copy this line of namespacing. Okay, now first Let's try to read the id value from the url. So to read the dynamic value from the url, we can use param that loads from the react router DOM, okay, and assign it to the object variable, okay, constant, and we have to specify the variable name exactly equal to our route dynamic placeholder. So route dynamic placeholder here is id, copy that and add here. So use param automatically pull the dynamic route value, okay. Now I can invoke this query we just prepared, right? Get by id. Let's try to invoke the get call by using the query command, okay, and once we receive the response we have to populate it into our form, okay. So for that, for reading our get request, we know we can use query, okay, that loads from the Apollo client library, and to this we have to pass our query command, that is get by id, and here we are going to add our variable as well directly here, okay. So if you type variable, you can see variables, and our variable is only id, okay. So id, and to this id I will pass my route value id. By default it reads as a string, so what I will do, I am going to convert it as a number and assign it, okay. So I can read the data from this use query, okay, data, right? So now what I will do, I am going to use the use effect, okay. Inside of the use effect, I am going to populate my form, and I am going to check for data property changes, nothing but our API read query API changes, okay. So here what I will do, if data dot, and what is the next property inside of the data, toy, that is nothing but the method name toy, okay. So that means I can copy from here, okay. So toy, if those exist means if we receive response, then we have to populate it to our form, so we can assign the data to our reference variables. So to assign the data to reference variable, we can use name dot current dot value, okay. So it will inputs this value to the text fields that are going to generate here, okay. These form controls rendered as a text field, right? To the text field, whatever the ref variable we map, those values will be assigned. So here what I will do here, data dot toy dot, sorry, capital toy, okay. So you can check the reference here, property names like this, okay. So I am going to pass them, okay. Next, price price dot current dot value, okay, data dot toy dot value, okay, sorry, price property name, and next image url dot current dot value, okay, data dot toy dot image url, okay. So that's going to populate our form. So now to check this output, what I will do, I will add a add button in all toys component inside of the cart, so that each item will have a edit button, okay. So here what I will do, I will add a button like, okay, variant primary type button, okay, on click, I can pass the route value. So I can use navigate variable just like add button. So navigate, but now our URL will have dynamic string, right? So I'm going to use backticks, specify slash and copy this, okay, and add here slash dollar and flower braces. So here I can pass dynamic value that is toy.id. Okay. So let's add the button text like edit. Okay, let's check it. Okay, I am getting some error. Form is missing. So edit toy. Okay, here import form name as well. Okay, now check. Okay, now good. Now here you can see the edit button. Let's edit this train item. See, I am able to get the data and in the URL you can see dynamic URL. Okay, so let me inspect element and check again. So inspect element, go to networks and XHR. Now if I click on edit button and if you see network call, there is no network call because by default it's going to use query going to use the in-memory cache. So what I will do, I will specify like fetch policy, no cache for now. Okay. Now if I go back to my landing page and reload, okay, clear network calls, and if I click on edit and go to network calls, now you can see the query. And this is payload response. And if you go to payload, you can see our query here. And here you can see our variable ID 3. Okay. And we can see our data is populated to the form. So far so good. Now we have to try to work this update button. That means we have to work on posting our updated item to the GraphQL server. So that means we have to create a mutation, right? Because saving the data to the server or updating or any changing data at the server, we have to use the mutation. Okay. So get back to schema and go to mutation. Here there is a method for updating the item. So we have to create a mutation command using this update method. Okay. So we know first we have to specify the keyword mutation, right? So mutation and our method name. Our method name is update toy, right? And here for this update toy, we have to pass our data. So can you ID and define the GraphQL variable, okay, with same name or any different name. Next, name and its variable name, okay, and price, sorry, price and variable name, image URL and variable name, okay. Now here we have to define the types for our variable types. So $.id, here you can see capital ID, exclamatory bit, that means non-nullable, okay. ID, next $.name, that is string. See, I'm just adding types that are showing here, okay. And $.price, int, $image URL, that means string, okay. And here I have to specify what are the properties that we required for the response. By default, it will give updated item as a response. So I will request for all the properties. Okay. Name, price, and image URL. Okay. So here we have to prepare our payload. Okay. For to display, I am adding some dummy variable data. Okay. Like this, if you add a particular item ID here, like one, and if you add some data and click on this run, then the data gets automatically updated. Okay. The data get automatically updated. If you want to test from here, you can test it. Okay. So now I want to test the update from my React application. So copy this mutation command and we have a mutation query JS. Okay, here. So export constant update toy. Okay, GQL backticks and copy here. Okay. Now I have to use this command for update the item. So if I go to my edit toy component, okay, so here I can use use mutation, use mutation. Okay, that loads from the Apollo client library. Okay, now to this use mutation, I have to pass my mutation command, right? So update toy. And from this use mutation, I am going to read a method. So constant use array equal to, okay. And here I will define a method like update toy. Okay, this is a method reference. Will be assigned it to here by the use mutation. If you want to read the data unloading properties, you can add a object as a second parameter in this variable. But I don't want here. Just remove it. Okay. And now I have to create a handler for my update button. So here let me create a handler. So constant update toy handler. Okay. So this is the handler for my button click. So I can directly pass it. Okay. Now here we have to add our logic for updation. So I can use update toy method here. Okay. So update toy. To this update toy, we can pass variables, GraphQL variables. Okay. So let's go to our add toy and let's use these properties. Okay. Same way we have to apply here. Okay. So these are the variable names, left hand side, and these are our form field variables. But here we have to pass ID as well. Okay. So ID, and I can read it from my use param variable. Okay. So ID. Okay. So once successfully updated, I want to navigate back to my home page. So I'm going to navigate. So let's add a variable constant navigate and use navigate method. Okay, use navigate loads from the React router DOM. Okay, so now I can use that navigate variable and pass the path. Simply slash, that means home page. Okay, so that's it. Let's try to update the item. Okay, so let's come to home page, reload page, and edit it. Let's change price to some 550. Okay, and open the network calls, clear the network calls. Now click on update. Okay, it is not working. It is not working. Okay, here variable name is wrongly given, image URL. Okay, copy again. Okay, here update it again. I think that is the issue for bad request. If I try to update again, go to landing page, edit, give some 550 and clear network calls. Console error. Okay, this is previous issue. Now if I click on update, see, price is updated. And if I check here, network call, see, this is the payload we are passing. We are updating the third record with the price 550. Okay. And if I reload also, it will stay because that is successfully updated at the server also. Okay. So that is how we have to do update in for GraphQL endpoint. Okay. Next, we are going to focus on delete operation. So now our main focus is on deleting the item. Okay. So first let's frame the delete mutation command in our playground. Okay. So in our playground, go for schema mutation and there is a method for remove the toy. Okay. And we know we have to specify mutation, right? And the method name that is remove toy. And it is expecting ID and we have to define GraphQL variable name ID. Okay. And here we can it returns deleted item. Okay. So in that I simply expect ID value. Okay. And here we have to define the type of our ID, right? Variable. And what is its type? Capital ID, which is JSON type, and exclamatory means non-nullable. Okay, this is our mutation command. So copy this command and in toy mutation.js, let's add it. Okay, export constant remove toy by ID. Okay, so GQL backticks add our command. So for deleting the item, what I will do in the all toys.js component itself, okay, I will show you a delete confirmation message. If user clicks on confirm delete, then we are going to remove the item. Okay, so to display the pop-up, we are going to create a shared component. Okay, in the components folder inside of shared, let me create a one more component like delete confirmation.js. Okay, now in this delete confirmation component, let's add bootstrap model. Okay, create bootstrap model. Okay, go to components and go for model. Okay, and in the models, let me copy this second example. Okay, so model tag I copied, add it here, and let's import the namespaces like model and button. Okay, so let's try to change something inside of this model. Okay, so here show property is to display model and hide the model. Okay, it receives boolean value. If it receives true, then model will show. If it receives false, model will be hidden. So what I will do, I'm so all the properties inside of this model will be the input properties because those properties will be inputted by the parent component, which is nothing but the component invokes this delete confirmation. Okay, in that way we can make this component generic component. Okay, so I will name it like, so first let's access the props. Okay, so I will name it like props dot show model. Okay, and this is on hide event will be triggered for cross button at the right corners of the model. Okay, so for now what I will do, I will write simply a arrow function, empty arrow function. Okay. So heading, I want it needs to be dynamic. So I will add props dot title. Okay. And body also, let make it dynamic. Okay. Props dot body. Okay. For now, button arrow function. Okay. Handle simple arrow function. And this button must be danger red color, and its label must be like confirm delete. Okay. So this is my generic delete confirmation model. If you want to define this button labels also more dynamic, you can use as props. Okay. Now what I can do, let's go to my all components.js, all toys.js. So here on clicking the delete button, I have to show the delete confirmation model, right? So here I will render the delete confirmation model. Okay. So delete confirmation model. So what are the dynamic properties we have here? Show model. Okay. So based on the show model, we are going to get the display or hiding of the model. Okay. So show model. What I will do, I am going to use both left hand side property name and right hand side property name both equal. Okay. So left hand side property is the input property inside of this component. Okay. Right hand side component property will be the this parent component property. Okay. So use like show model. Okay. Now what I can do for title also I can pass. So next is title, right? So title I can simply pass a string here. Okay. No need more dynamic by creating a property inside of my all toys. I can directly assign the string like confirm delete. Okay. Same way body. Body also I can directly give a string. Okay. Are you sure to delete item? Okay. So remaining things I have to configure like events. Okay. So now what I can do, first let's define a property for this show model, not props dot normal show model. So let's define this property. Till now we don't have here. Okay. So what I will do, I will use a state variable. Okay. Constant show model, set show model. Okay. By default, it should be false because our pop-up should be hidden, right? By default. So you state default value false. Okay. So we have defined this variable here, this show model variable. Okay. So now on delete, clicking on delete button on the item, I have to show the model. Confirm delete pop-up, right? So let's configure the delete button here next to edit button. Okay. So let's configure the button. So variant danger. Okay. Type button. Okay. For on click, I have to register the event handler here. Okay. So it will be the button. Sorry, delete. So let me create a handler for opening the confirm delete model. So I will name, so here constant open confirm delete model handler. Okay. So it will get item to delete as a input value. Okay. ID value. Okay. So let's pass this method here. Okay. Since it should pass input parameter to the handler, right? So open the arrow function. Inside of the arrow function, call our function. Okay. So toy.id will be passed. Okay. Now what we have to do means on opening the uh, confirm delete, I have to save this variable item to delete. So for that, I will create a one more state variable. Okay. So constant item ID to delete. Okay. And set item ID to delete. Okay. So use state by default some zero value. So that represent nothing to delete. Okay. So here I'm going to set that variable. Okay. So set item to delete, pass our ID value. Okay. Along with that, I have to open the pop-up, right? That means I have to uh, assign the value show model true. So set show model true. So this is the logic inside of my open confirm delete. Okay. So let me also create a closing handler. That handler will be passed to our delete confirmation on hide event, on click event. Okay, so let me create one more handler like constant close confirm delete model handler. Okay, there won't be any input parameters. Simply these set values we have to add here, but let's reset back our item to delete to 0 and hide our model false. Okay. Now let's pass this method to our delete confirmation model. Since I am using left hand side and right hand side both the property names. Okay. So this property is our right hand side properties are our current parent component and left hand side property names are our child, nothing but delete confirmation model component properties. Okay. So go to delete confirmation. Here what I will do props dot close delete hand. Okay, we are passing the reference of the method in the parent component. Okay, so that's it. Our close and opening of the pop-up should be work now. Okay, so to test it, let's go to our application. Okay, here I am getting delete button. You can see, right? If I try to delete the item, see pop-up is coming. If I close cross button, see pop-up is hiding. Again, if I click on close button, then also close is hiding. Now opening and closing of the pop-up is working perfectly. Okay. Now the thing we have to do is we have to delete the item. So we know for deleting item from the GraphQL, we have to use the mutation, right? So here let me define the use mutation method. Okay, to this method, what I will do, let's pass our constant of mutation for removing. Okay, so that is remove toy by id. Okay, pass it here. So from okay. Now we know in for mutation we are going to read a method. So constant array. Okay, I will name the method name like delete toy. Okay, this is my method name. So I can use this delete toy method inside of my confirm delete handler. Okay, so let me create a one more handler like confirm delete. Okay, confirm delete handler. Okay, so this handler must be passed to my model, right? So pass it. Okay, and here props dot confirm delete. Okay. Now here what I can do, I can use the delete toy method. Okay, delete toy. And to this method, I can pass my variable that is ID. Okay, that ID value we have assigned to our item to delete, right? So I can use it here. So once it is successfully removed, I can simply resetting the item to delete and set model, show model also. Here we have to do one more thing, that is our total cards is looping based on the data where, so where is my cards? All toys data. All toys data is nothing but our collection of data from the GraphQL, right? So we have to remove the item we deleted at the server in our property also. So here what I will do, so set all toys data, I will use arrow function. Okay, so it will inputs existing data. Okay, so here what I will do, return existing data filter. Okay, dot id not equal to our item to delete. Okay, so I am simply removing the my deleted item at the server in my UI collection also, so that it will immediately removed from UI also. Okay, so save it. So that's it. That's all the required changes. So let's test it. So let me click on delete and let me inspect element or check the network call. Okay. And if I click on confirm delete, see item is deleted. If I go to network call invoked. And if you see, this is the payload and this is our mutation command we are passing as a payload. And here you can see the remote toy. Since we are only requesting ID is coming from the server. Okay, so if I reload also, I will see only two because we have deleted at the server as well. See, so we have successfully implemented the create, read, delete operation in ReactJS for consuming the GraphQL endpoint using the Apollo GraphQL library. Okay, next I am going to do one more video in this video series. In the next video, what I will do, I am going to change my logic in create toy component, edit toy component, and in the delete operation also. So here we are every time if item is deleted, we are reloading from the server. If the item is created, when we navigate back to our toy pages, we are reloading we are invoking the API call again, right? So instead of doing all these things, I am going to show how the inbuilt cache works. So by default, I disabled, right? So wherever we have a get API call, I disabled. So if you check here, fetch policy, no cache, right? Here I disabled. Same way in the edit also I disabled. So in the edit, fetch policy, no cache. So in the next video, I am going to show you how it will work. Uh, our entire CRUD application, how it will work if we use the cache. Okay. So previously we completed the CRUD sample, right? But we have disabled the by default in memory cache. Okay, so in this video what we will do, we will enable the cache and we rewrite our code. Okay, so first let's try to rewrite our create operation to utilize the in memory cache. Okay, first let's go to our application and let me create a new record. Okay, so that you can understand. Okay, I am creating new record. Okay, now if I click on add button, okay, since we removed no cache, right? So we won't see our newly created record. Okay, so let me create it. See, if you observe, there is no record. And if you observe the network calls, See, here is only create API is we are seeing, but no fetch API. That is because by default use query tries to read the data from the in-memory cache. Okay. If I refresh my page, then I will get a new request, right? Because once we refresh, in-memory cache will be destroyed. Then we can see our newly created record. Let me reload the page, and you can see my by newly created record, right? So to overcome this problem by using in-memory cache, then we have to update our newly created record into the in-memory cache. Okay. So for that, what I will do, first let's go to add toy.js. Okay. So here what I can do, here as a variables, I can configure one more options. Okay. So this is add toy method, right? This comes from the mutation. So here I can pass just like variable GraphQL variables, I can pass another option like update. Okay. So it will take two parameters like cache. Okay. That is first parameter. And second parameter will be our response object. So data is common root object. And what is the response object of this create toy? So for that, go to our mutation and here create toy. And here, this is the name of the response property. So copy this and give it inside of it. Okay. So open the function. So now what I can do, I can use cache property and I can use modify. Okay. So this will update the cache and open object and here specify like fields. Okay. So in that fields, okay, okay. Now I can create a method to read the existing cache information. That method is nothing but in all toys cache, okay, use use query get all toys. What is the response type? All toys, right? So this will be used as a function now because with this variable name, our cache will store, okay, because it is the fetch for my home page. Okay, so now what I can do, copy this all toys name from get all toys query command. Okay, and just go to our add toy, add it here and add it like a function, and by default it will inputs all the existing data. Okay, so with optional empty array. Okay, now here what I can do, my newly created record, right? So what is my newly created? This is the command, right? So I am expecting all the properties as a response, single object. I will create single object. That object I am expecting as a response, right? Now what I can do here, the inside of the add toys, I will add them like a new fragment. Okay, fragments is in pieces. Okay, piece of query. So constant new toy ref. I'm trying to create a new GraphQL instance of my newly created item. Here it is a normal JSON object, right? I am converting into the uh, GraphQL type. Okay, so what I can do, I can use here cache again, and I can write a fragment. Okay, so here for the data property, I can pass my create object directly. Okay, that is my newly created response type, response variable, right? This is my API response. So what will happen means whenever the mutation is successful at the servers, once the response is received, this update method gets executed. See here we are listening, right, for the add toy promise. Then before executing this method, once the API is successful, update method will execute. After update method, this then gets executed. Okay, and here for data as in our newly created record, and here we are going to create a fragment. Okay, so now we have to create a fragment. Okay, so fragment is a GraphQL command. Okay, GQL, use GQL. Okay, we have to import the namespace. See it is imported or not. Let's add GQL here. Okay, open backticks and frame or fragment. So here fragment is nothing but a GraphQL syntax. So I can write like a fragment. It is a new piece in the array. I want to put this new piece. So I am writing like a fragment. Okay, one piece. So fragment, I will name it like this is new toy. Okay, on toy. I am defining a type. Okay, any type you can mention here. Okay, and this is my fragment name. Okay, so here open braces and I have to define all the properties. Okay, so copy all these. I am fragmenting. Okay, add it here. Okay, format them. So this will create the new fragment of the exist fragment. So I can push into the existing GraphQL data. Okay, for that I finally what I have to do, I will return array and first inject the existing data, right? And then I have to push my new toy ref. Okay, so that's it. I am adding my newly created object into the data. See, update method gets immediately executed once the API is successful, and cache that gives control over in-memory cache of our GraphQL client, and this is our API response. Newly created object will be in this variable. Now using catch.modify under the fields, we are defining which object we want to update. So by default, in all toys, we are using the get all query, right? So all toys, right? So what is the response object? This one. So with this name only, it will be stored into the in-memory cache. So to retrieve the data from the in-memory cache, we have to call that response property name as object. So automatically cache will inject the existing data into it. If there is no data, empty array will be assigned to it. Okay. And next we are defining a new GraphQL fragment, our newly created record, and finally pushing into the existing data. Okay. So save it, and if I try to create a new object, now when our object is saved successfully and navigated back to my home page, then I can see my newly created record immediately, because my newly created record I am updated it in in-memory cache also. Okay, so let me uh, reload the page first. Okay, I have 4 toys, right? Let me add one more toy like a robo. Okay, and clear network calls. Now if I click on add button, okay, I navigate back to home page. If I scroll down, see my newly created record is on my home page. If I check network calls, there is no get network call. This is the create network call. That means successfully I am able to push my data into the cache, newly created record into the in-memory cache. Okay, that is how cache will work. Okay, just like add, we can do same thing for update. Okay, let me show you a brief code. So copy this update method and go to our edit. So here let's add that update method. Since it is update, right? Uh, so what I have to do means, so it won't be a create. So for update, what it will be? The update you can see it is update toy. Okay, and add it here. And now you can create a new instance, and here you have to pass data update toy. Okay, so update toy, but already existing data you have to remove it, right? So to remove it, I can pass one more field here, like create here one object, and inside of that object I can read a variable like read field. So this will help to get the ID, okay, any field from the existing object while we loop it. Okay, so now I have to remove the my existing data from the cache, right? So for that what I will do, existing data okay, equal to existing data filter, okay, toy. What I will do, I can use the read field to obtain the value from the toy. Okay, so read field and specify the property I want to read. It is the ID, right, in our response. And second parameter, we should pass the iterating object. So it will pops out the value of the looping object, and it should be compared with our update toy dot id, because it is a simple JSON object, right? And comparing it. So here I don't want that object to exist in the existing data. Okay, I am removing the old data object, and here I am updating the new data object. Like this, we have to implement the for update operation. Same way for delete also. So I can copy this method. Okay. So delete is implemented in our all toys set. Go to all toys, and here where is our delete confirmation handler and delete toy, under the variables configure our update method. Okay, I configured the update method. So here just to remove the item, right? So I can remove, there is no right fragment. Okay, and here I need read field. Okay, and here it is not update toy, because what is the mutation type here? Remove toy by id. So remove toy by id type is remove toy by id. Okay, so let's go to our all toys. So here in the response object, pass it. Okay, so edit toy, I haven't given anything. Update toy, pass it here, and here we are excluding, right? Same logic we will use, but here we simply return the existing toy. That means after deleting the data from the server, we are updating cache also explicitly uh, to remove. Okay, so like this, you can use in-memory caching. I hope this video delivered some useful content to you all. If you like the video, please do support me by subscribing to my channel. Soon we are going to meet with new content.